Hello and welcome to this week's episode of Higher or Lower, brought to you by Sporting Index, SpreadX and oddschecker. I'm your host, George Elek. I'm delighted to be joined by Jack Wright and by Dan Worth as we look ahead to the weekend's football in both the Premier League and in the Championship playoffs. Playoffs, you say?
Oh, are they on?
If I sound a bit hoarse, and I think my voice has dropped an octave since yesterday, it's because I was in the away end yesterday at Peterborough, 1, Oxford, 1, Ag, 1-2.
Ag, yeah.
And I thought nothing could bring me down. And then I walked into the studio this morning singing Que Sera Sera on the tube. Everyone gave me weird looks. I walk in, I walk past your laptop and I see your WhatsApp web and I see that Dan Worth hasn't saved my number in his phone book. Despite the fact we've been texting for professionally and personally for about a year, hasn't decided that it's worth his time to do that. So I'm now a bit sad, and the excitement of a Wembley trip has been ruined by the fact that the guy I thought was a mate doesn't even think he wants to save my number. So
sorry, you're in trouble this episode. Then.
Yeah, I did. That's why my computer's been down, isn't it? You've been playing.
I punched it.
Yeah,
I punched it.
I'm glad you had a good evening yesterday, though.
Yeah, I had a good evening yesterday. It was incredible.
More to come as well, Wembley.
Well, but that's the thing. There was a time about 10 minutes ago last night where I was like feeling sick. There was one point I had to hold onto the seats because I thought I was going to faint. And I was like, all we're doing here is we're just like cheering on doing this again.
Yeah.
But even worse. But yeah, I mean, obviously a day out at Wembley and going with friends and family and having the whole day is great anyway, no matter what happens.
Yeah, exactly.
Unfortunately, I could only watch it on TV. I wasn't there in person. But as they panned across the stadium and zoomed in on a few supporters' faces, I did look out for you.
Yeah.
But, there was some frayed nerves, to say the least, which is amazing stuff.
I got to the pub before the game yesterday and a guy said to me, I've just seen you on Oxford's Instagram. And I said, you what? And they'd videoed me at the home leg singing E-I-E-I-O, arms outstretched, and put it up on their reels.
Wow. Amazing.
I know, absolutely love it.
Famous.
Yeah, you're going to get famous now from that.
Not from this.
Already famous.
I thought I already was as the host of Higher or Lower.
You are.
Right. Let's look ahead to the weekend's football. We'll talk about playoffs in a bit, but this is the show where we look at the weekend's football. We take the midpoint from the markets from SpreadX and Sporting Index, and we say if we think the eventuality will be higher or lower. Kicking off with Fulham versus Manchester City. Now, the script in front of me says the midpoint here is 3, but that is incorrect. 3.6 to sell, 3.8 to buy. That means the midpoint is, Dan?
3.7.
Congratulations, well done. So higher here is 4 or more goals, lower is 3 or fewer. We're going higher or lower here. 3, 2, 1.
There we go.
Thought you'd be buoyant from last night, looking for goals. You came in this morning with the sun out like buzzing.
I bought goals last night and it was 1-1. It was a shame.
That's why, isn't it? Burnt
by goals.
Burnt. Yeah. Well, I'm interested. Would you still have gone lower if it was 3?
What do you mean? There were 3 last night?
No, if the midpoint was 3.
No.
Yeah, fine. Fair enough. Thought that might have been a bit of an interesting discussion, but definitely not. City just on an absolute roll. I think City blow Fulham out the water here. They just look so good at the moment. Scored 11 goals in their last 3. Expect it to continue. I also think that Fulham could score, which I think is a big part of getting 4 goals, right, is sort of accepting that I'm potentially backing both teams to score here. Fulham have a record of scoring against the bigger teams. I think in the reverse it was 5-1 to City, so I could see a similar scoreline here, to be honest, and that's kind of my thinking.
Wow. Big. Yeah, I don't see that.
No.
Can anyone stop Man City is the question. I don't think Fulham are the side with the kahunas to do that. 0-0 with Brentford last week. It just feels that their season is, I'm going to use the phrase, the pace. Their season is petering out. And
who is petering it out, though? Because that was, it's got to be the verb, isn't it?
Is it?
No,
I don't
doesn't make any sense.
No. Okay. They've lost their last 15 versus Manchester City, so that looks like an issue. Well, aggregate scoreline of 45-7, average of 3.47 goals per game across that period of time. But the main driver for me in this is I just don't think Manchester City will have the desire to absolutely go full guns blazing here. I can see this being a controlled City performance rather than that full throttle City performance, because the main part for me is that they've got Spurs on Tuesday, which is arguably their hardest game left in the season. They win that, then I think they've pretty much got the title. So I just feel that is the reason they might well control this one out. A few substitutions, a little bit of rotation against the Fulham side that I think they're now kind of just winding down, ready for the beach.
Yeah, for sure. If you look at Fulham's home games this season against teams 8th and above, 2-1, 3-1, 2-1, 3-0, 1-0, 2-0, 1-0. So only one of those has gone over 3.5 goals, which is what you're looking for here. And even City away from home against teams down towards the, in the middle part of the bottom end of the table, there's a 2-1 defeat, obviously, at Wolves. There's a 2-0 at Forest, a 2-1 at Luton, a 3-0 at Burnley, a 2-1 against Sheffield United. Again, like these are games where there aren't loads of goals. I know both teams have seen plenty of goals in games this season, but it feels like this particular match where it's Fulham at home against a side towards the top end, or City against one of the teams not maybe performing at their best, it generally doesn't yield too many.
Some blanket stats. Fulham's average home games 2.83. Only 6 of 18 have gone higher than this line, 33%. City's is 3.35, so as you'd expect, a bit higher, but still not high enough. 7 of 17 have gone higher than this line again, which is only 41%. So a combined 13 of 35, 37% for me. Yeah, it's a nice lower one here. I think with City doing the heavy lifting as far as the goals are concerned.
City are high flying at the moment, much like the kites at Fulham's training ground this week.
Didn't even see that.
No.
Something else, I missed that as well.
Lost flying kites at training, and everyone's like, yeah, on the beach already.
Oof, wow.
Which
interesting.
Nice.
Probably has no impact on what we've just talked about, but just fun.
Was that on like Nickelodeon News?
No, but that is where I get most of it.
Next up, Nottingham Forest hosting Chelsea. Chelsea bouncing into some form right now.
Yeah.
Nottingham Forest's also looking like they might well be safe if it's not quite done yet, but they're looking in a good position to maintain their Premier League status. Looking at total goal minutes now, and again 164 to sell with spread X, 179 to buy, midpoint 1.5.
Yeah, I don't know who did
George
that.
really lifting the curtain behind the scenes.
I know,
One
yeah.
It's not
171. As glamorous as people might think.
171.5.
Yeah, that's the real.
Fine. 171.5 is the midpoint here with spread X for total goal minutes. This is the total number of accumulative minutes the goals are scored in within the game. Are we going higher or lower? 3, 2, 1.
Oh, not alone.
Not this time.
What? Back-to-back clean sheet Chelsea?
Yeah.
Basically, I mean, it's just a high line. I wouldn't be bullish in being an opposing goals here at all. I think for Forest, the assignment has come a lot simpler over the last week or so, with results going their way, and I'm seeing both Burnley and Luton dropping points. So here, a draw is a fair result for them. It's not like they're going to have to really throw caution to the wind and chase the game if they are behind. And as I say, Chelsea looking just way better defensively. You look at the West Ham game, even the Spurs game, it was very open to start with, and kind of as the game wore on, Spurs are just more and more unable to really challenge Chelsea too much. And it is a small sample size, of course, but Forest aren't the most prolific going forward, and it wouldn't be a huge surprise to me if they struggle to break them down. So at 171.5, I would need like a really pertinent reason why I think there'll be late goals here, and I can't really see it. Jack?
Yeah, I'm pretty much on the fence myself, and I've just toppled the other side of it here. So I've just gone with the fact that it's been a goal-heavy season, and I'll take this on because Chelsea's games have been a bit bonkers. As I say, it has changed a little bit over the last few games. So I just find them in an absolutely brilliant run of form at this moment in time. Their best form of the season, 1 defeat in 12, that one coming away at Arsenal, so no real disgrace in that. And I think they've come into the City ground at the wrong time for Forest here, because they're banging with a chance of getting a European place, but I think they need to win their final 3 games, starting with this one, so I think they'll drive it. They've also there's a possibility, I think, arguably that Spurs are their easiest capture rather than Newcastle with Spurs' current form, and they're bang level as far as goal difference is concerned, so it might come down to that to get them a European place. So, and great to see your good friend Nicholas Jackson hitting some form.
What player?
Scoring some goals. And I
What
think
a player.
for next season, I think I'll be very interested in his markets next season, because I think he's had a little settling period, had a bit of stick, which is a bit unfair for a player in his first season in a new country and in a new league, and he's still young, relatively experienced across the board. So, yeah, and of course Cole Palmer as well. 30 goal involvements for him this season, which is sensational stuff. Chelsea's last 14 Premier League games have seen goals in both halves, so that certainly gives us hope that and expectation that there will be goals in the second half, which is what we need here. For those that are interested in numbers, I've done a bit of blanket number crunching across the season. Forest home games have an average of 155 goal minutes, a median of 129. Throw that one in for people who have actually had someone ask me what the median is.
Wow.
Yeah, so I'm here to provide a service. And Chelsea away games average of 195 across the season, which is pretty huge to be fair, isn't it? And a median of 231. Higher for me.
That's quite nice. I have literally nothing that can better what you've just said there. So I'm if anything, I'm just happy to be on your side after you've reeled off all of those numbers.
How many goals do you think Nicholas Jackson will score next season?
18.
Interesting.
You?
I think they'll probably try and buy a striker. But can they buy anyone? Who knows?
Well, we've got Nkunku there, who will have his,
He might play more than 30 minutes next season.
I'd say 15.
Funnily enough, my line was 17, so we're right all around that kind of neck of the woods. So. Helping you out there, traders.
Yeah. Anything else to say?
Nah, don't need to.
On to Championship playoff first semi-final first leg. Now, it might well be Jack's turn to have a hoarse voice after this game. Norwich hosting Leeds. Jack, very much a Norwich fan. The not quite as good Yellows. Well, the better Yellows, but like worse club.
What a week for Yellows. Dortmund, Oxford.
Yeah.
Wow. TBC.
What did Villarreal get up to? Las Palmas?
Yeah, not doing so well. No. Move on from them.
Right, so Leeds are the favourites here at Carrow Road. This is the supremacy market, the amount of goals by which the favourite will beat the underdog. 0.35 is midpoint here. So over, higher is a Leeds win, lower is a draw or a Norwich victory. Are we going higher or lower? 3, 2, 1. Oh, it's pathetic.
Well, we're all Yellows, aren't we? Aren't we, Dan?
Oh, yeah, something like that.
All Yellows.
Something like that.
Tell us about this one. Is this heart or head?
I'd like to think it's definitely a bit of both. But, yeah, I feel that having Norwich and the draw on side here is pretty decent, given Norwich's home record in recent months. I think it's November, isn't it? The last defeat, Blackburn.
Yeah.
Still. So, I think they've done superbly well over that period of time. Lost, obviously, none of the last 15 at home, winning 11 of those as well. And I think they really, really need a win here. I don't think they can go to Ellen Road with anything other than an advantage. Probably a 2-goal advantage, to be fair. And, I think they've got the tools to cause Leeds problems. We've obviously had a little bit of a wobble towards the end of the season. Is that down to the fact, I think they were still in the hunt until very late in the season, so it can't be down to the fact that they're just kind of resigned themselves to being in the playoffs. I just think that has Farke become a little bit predictable in his setup, possibly to some extent. Obviously, there's a good few Norwich players will know about his setup from their time under him, how he'll go into these games. You can argue the fact that this is his first playoff campaign as well, so I'm interested to see how he does that. But yeah, they only picked up 4 points in the last 6 games. Leeds have conceded 2 or more goals in their last 4 away games, including that 4 against QPR. And I think that dip of form at that wrong time certainly is just a little bit too consistent for me not to be able to take, say, a home win and a draw on side here. I'd hope that Wagner's learned from his mistakes. He's been in situations this season, 2 up against Leeds at home in the league game, where he is prepared to give the better sides in the league the ball, and that kind of worked well to a certain extent against Leeds. Certainly first half, say 2 goals up, but then retreated into shell and just got picked off, and it was 3-2. A big clash for me, Jack Stacey against Crescencio Somerville. Be interesting to see if Stacey's learned from his mistakes, because Somerville's been the dominant force in the 2 league games this season. We've had a bit of a repeated theme for Wagner, normally away from home, to be fair, where they'll kind of get an advantage and then just retreat a bit too deep. We saw that against Leicester, didn't we, quite recently, but also there was 2 goals ahead against Watford and lost, 2 goals ahead against Sheffield Wednesday and drew. I mentioned the Leeds one already, and then you got the likes of Leicester, Borough and QPR away, where they took the lead, and then couldn't hold on to it. So for me, The form table supports Norwich. They're fourth from over the last 10 games, with Leeds down in 12th. I just think that at home, with home advantage, and a lot's been made of this, and I think the Leeds fans are a little bit edgy about it as well, that Norwich can drive an advantage, but they need to.
Yeah, I spoke to some Leeds fans yesterday actually, and they're just like, it's just horrible. Like, they just want it to be over because like it's just.
Well,
yeah.
that can be sorted out. That's
I'm sure he'd be happy to oblige. But yeah, like Leeds come into this in like terrible form really for Leeds, misfiring. Not apart from the Middlesbrough game where they scored 4, they've not been prolific by any means, and that's coming from me that spent most of the season talking about how good Leeds are going forward. I mean, and defensively as well, which they also haven't been in the last few games, our last 6, I think. So I think you look at that form and plus Norwich are at home and get the draw on side, it just feels like it's definitely that side of the supremacy line for me.
Yeah, I think it'll be a really low-scoring game. I think we've seen, even in the playoff semi-finals that have had goals so far, they're just cagey games. Like even that Barnsley-Bolton game, there were 4 goals. It wasn't really a 4-goal game on paper, and we sat here and spoke about the first leg of the Oxford-Peterborough matchup, and we all said the same thing there. And this feels like quite a similar game where I think Leeds, if they come away from this just with a goal deficit, probably aren't overly concerned. I don't think Leeds' massive defensive issues are going to come into this one. I don't think Norwich are going to come here and put 3 past them. The Leeds, I think it'll be a game where both teams are basically jockeying for position and trying to make sure they go into the second leg with a fair chance of getting to Wembley. And if that's the case, if you bring the goal line down, then a draw becomes a huge runner as well. So
the legless Ashley Barnes is a is a big miss.
He's a big miss. He is a big miss. But like with Leeds, they had back-to-back home games against Sunderland and Blackburn where they didn't score in either, and they took 1 point from them. And if they'd won probably one of those games, they probably would have been promoted automatically. And it felt like at that moment, Farke was like, right, I need to sort out our attacking, our lack of attacking threat. And he kind of tore up what had been so successful this season.
Yeah, absolutely right.
And suddenly they started, they moved Gray into midfield. Like they tried to, they changed personnel. And their defensive unit has been, this season, the key reason why they've been so strong. And they messed that up. And then they suddenly conceded 3 against Borough, 4 against QPR, and then 2 on final day. So.
That's right. Johnny Rowe, I think, could be an interesting one. He obviously loves the big occasion. I nearly wore the T-shirt today.
Could be his last ever game at Carrow Road, this.
Probably will be.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, certainly in a Norwich shirt.
Well, injuries could put off potential suitors. And if you go up, I think he might stick around. But let's see. Anyway, we all are in agreement that Norwich have a good chance of getting something out of that first leg. And the other Championship playoff semi-final first leg, we go to the Hawthorns, where Carlos Corberán's West Bromwich Albion host Russell Martin's Southampton. Southampton did the double over West Brom this season, winning away from home 2-0 and at home 2-1. Southampton, the favourites here, just 0 is the sell price with Sporting Index. 0.2 is the buy price. So higher here is a Saints win, lower is West Brom or draw. 3, 2, 1. Easy. Yeah. I'm really sweet on West Brom for the playoffs. Even though Martin has a 4-0 record over Corberán over their last 4 meetings, I basically think going into this game, like Carlos Corberán as a manager, the reason why he's so good in my mind is because he takes a group of players and he can play any which way. Like they often sit in a low block and allow teams to have a lot of possession. They'll sometimes really take a game to a team and look to press high, or sometimes even play a high line and play possession football. I think for the playoffs, that's a really strong skill to have. If you think it was him who took Huddersfield through past Luton over 2 legs in the playoff semi-finals a couple of years ago, and then they lost to Nottingham Forest in the final, and again, what was a really cagey game. They did well to nullify most of the Forest threat that day, and the goal itself actually shouldn't have counted. And they come into this against the Saints side and a Russell Martin side where you basically know what they're going to do. Like, there's a chance he might switch to a back 3, which he did for one of the games they played previously against each other to combat West Brom's aerial threat. But they're going to want to retain possession. They're going to play a high line. I think for Corberán, that's ideal. He's like the master of taking these games and being like, this is how they're going to play. How do we combat that threat? And yes, whilst Saints won both of these games, the game at St Mary's was ridiculous. Like Gavin Bazunu had his best game by miles over the season, and even in the away leg where Saints were the better side at the Hawthorns, West Brom still hit the woodwork twice at 1-0. So yeah, I've backed West Brom to win the playoffs at 11-2, and I think, it wasn't that long ago that they were the 5th team in the kind of the Championship Big Four, and that seems to have been forgotten a little bit. And I also think they played really well on final day against Preston when they needed to win to ensure they were going to get in the playoffs. And even if you think back to a game at Leicester a couple of weeks ago, that Leeds fans in particular will remember with frustration, they were all over Leicester that day, and they deserved to get at least a point out of the game, possibly all 3. So, yeah, I think West Brom will come away with this with something for sure. Well, I say for sure, I don't know. Dan?
Well, I do agree with you. I think this has got a score draw written all over it.
Okay.
That's me giving you my full prediction. But yeah, again, like West Brom, the home team, getting drawn aside, it just feels like everything's in their favour. And like I completely agree with you that I think Corberan will edge the tactical battle here.
Which he's never done before against Martin. But yes,
Well, there's
Strange that.
unsustainable.
yes.
Yeah?
Great.
Yeah. Oh, no.
Come on. I just think it's like interesting as well because I think there might be a little bit of a hangover from Southampton missing out on automatics. Like I know they
It
weren't
was a while back.
right in there,
Yeah.
but that was the expectation. Like the squad they have is good enough to do that, right?
I think personally, from my dealings with the Saints fans, I don't think there was any confidence from Southampton fans they were going to be able to
Really?
finish. Yeah, I think the perception from outside is because you look at their squad and you look at, the fact they came down from the Premier League last season, the rest of it, but I think this was always seen, as, especially with the new manager coming in, as a season of transition. That's been my perception anyway. Jack, how do you see this?
Pretty much identically to you, to be fair. That those notes are much the same. I sometimes put these playoff games in is as much about coach versus coach as opposed to players versus players. So I do rate Corberan higher than Russell Martin. Pains me to say it, of course.
No.
But I do, despite that record that you've talked about there, and what I said there is that Corberan can change his style when it's needed. Whereas Martin, you know what you're going to get, and when you know what you're going to get in a playoff, then that's so much easier, obviously, to prepare for and counteract and deal with. So yeah, I'm going to take him to get the better over Martin, and I think, like we've said already, these first legs, I think Southampton, the same as Leeds, if they go into their home leg either level or even a goal down, they wouldn't be too fazed by that. But so we've got to support these ex-Huddersfield managers that have done so well in the playoffs in the past, haven't we? And that's what we've done.
Absolutely. That is exactly what we've done. So both of us, all 3 of us, all agreeing that the favourites in the away sides in the Championship playoff first legs in the semi-finals might struggle. Back to the Premier League, where Manchester United hosts Arsenal. This comes, it's an incredible Sunday of football, to be fair. It's not Norwich Leeds into West Brom Southampton into Manchester United versus Arsenal.
Not bad.
Pretty good, I would say. Bukayo Saka player goal minutes, Dan. He's the man you've chosen for this one.
Yeah. Well, I imagine after agreeing on the last 2, we might be different here.
Ooh.
Are we? Are you going lower?
We'll soon find out.
Nice. Saka player goal minutes, 28.5 is the midpoint with Sporting Index going higher or lower, 3, 2, 1.
Yes. There we go.
Like, obviously United are bad defensively, obviously Arsenal are good going forward. Obviously this is a game where we can anticipate they should probably win it. But like, he's 28.5 is seriously high for a player. I mean, I know he's probably he has been their biggest goal threat. I'm not convinced he's their biggest goal threat right now, especially not from open play. I don't, just checking if I'm right, but like his open play goal scoring stats recently aren't the best. And he had 4 games without a goal leading into the Spurs and Bournemouth games where he's obviously gone back to back. Yeah, I mean, he's a player that I love. If the line was down kind of in the teens, I'd think about it. But near enough 30, you've got a 1 in 3 chance basically he scores in the game, and I'm still winning here. So that's good enough for me, especially when he's obviously odds against to score in it. Jack, why are you taking on the odds?
I just think Arsenal are going to score multiple times here. I think they're going to hammer Manchester United, who I'm not going to be able to use the word team. They're a shambles. Watch that Crystal Palace game, and is it like one eye on the FA Cup final? Maybe, I don't know. When you've got senior players that make a mistake on the halfway line and dawdle, I'm going to use the word dawdle back. That's the quickest I could probably give him credit for. And then see the player that they lost position to score, and then go and point at someone else and say it's their fault. that's not a great place to be, is it? So, lazy, slow, and disinterested. I think United, and you don't want to be coming against Arsenal at the minute, who are vibrant and rampant. And I just think that whole front four are more than likely to get on the score sheet. And Saka's obviously on penalties as well, which does help, given how badly Man United defend. I think that is a runner in this one. Paul Tierney, of course, the man with the whistle. So see if he points towards the spot. But yeah, I want to take a chance on Saka getting goals here. I thought you might go lower as well, which means gives me a differential in the title race.
Outrageous.
Yeah, and he scored. Although he didn't score in the reverse fixture, he did assist, but he scored in both fixtures last season. So did score at Old Trafford.
In the final show of the season, if I'm still ahead of you, do you reckon it might be a case where you just try and predict everything I do and just
100%. Yeah, and the final show is next week, I believe.
It is.
Oh no!
Unbelievable. Isn't
Well,
it?
a big part of it as well is going to come down to our pre-season picks, which are
what about the week after?
still in play. What?
Got FA Cup final, Championship final.
Maybe we do one. Maybe
Yeah.
we do a special.
Too right.
Yeah.
Okay.
But I'm pretty sure all three of us went higher on Saka goals this season, right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
Well, I mean, as I said, there's a 1 in 3 chance he scores here, and I still win.
yeah, no, that's fine. But he scored 3 goals in his last 4 against Man United.
You'll
So
put
one
that
blip there. So you can't say it's unsustainable. Cause
No, I'm just saying
it's only
that's
been-
not okay.
This is what George normally says. When did he score the goals?
Yeah, that's true. And I didn't look at that, so you might be right.
Yeah.
53 in the home game last season. 60 at Old Trafford last season.
Wow.
Mr. Reliable.
There you go.
So if anything, like this is coming in on our side. Everything's against you here.
Everything's against me.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Look forward to that. Up the Bukayo Saka. I bought his goal, so if he does score, I'll be delighted.
Yeah.
All
Same game, we're looking at booking points with Sporting Index. This is the total cumulative booking points in the game. 10 points for a yellow, 25 for a red. Paul Tierney. I feel like Dan is a Paul Tierney stan. I feel like the last 4 games to have bookings, it's been Paul.
Yeah, I guess he just gets the televised games right. There's not really any one more reason as to why I picked.
He's obviously in some good form, isn't he?
Yeah.
46 is the sell price with Sporting Index. 50 is the buy price. 48 is the midpoint. Are we going higher or are we going lower? 3, 2, 1.
All in.
Jack, you're the man.
I'm so keen.
You're the man with the golden whistle.
Wow.
Yeah.
Yeah, interesting. Yeah. Has PT rediscovered his mojo? That's the question.
Feels like it, doesn't it?
Yeah, I think he's got a little bit of
Ticking along.
a little bit back, hasn't he? We've talked about it before. His average is pretty low across the season. 38.96 now it stands. 86 yellow cards, 3 red in his 25 Premier League appearances. But the last 7, he's gone 50, 40, 50, 50, 20, 70, 40, an average of 45. So, yeah, that average is just below, but there's enough games around there that would suggest that given one with a bit more bite, a bit more edge, which we'd expect this one to be, then yeah, we'll go for it. It took the Manchester derby. There was 50 in that. 40 of those went to Manchester United. And I just feel, I've mentioned it already, that they're going to be trailing in Arsenal's wake a lot of the time here. And I can just see some just late tackles. I can just see a little bit of niggle coming into the game as well. Looking at the teams, they're kind of mid-table and Arsenal right down the bottom. But I think we can write this one as a little bit of a different picture, given their that kind of relationship, their rivalry, I suppose you call it. The last meeting, the reverse fixture, there was 50 in that. Anthony Taylor at the whistle then. And 3 prior to that was 30 with Taylor again in charge. Interestingly, Paul Tierney, the one before that, September 2022, there was 60. That works. And prior to that, April 22, of course, it was Paul's with 70 booking points. So I just think there's enough edge in this game, enough at stake, especially for Arsenal, that with Paul Tierney now starting to come back to form, then we'll take the higher road.
Excellent stuff. Dan?
Yeah, not that much to add, to be honest. I think it's like usually we say if the game's going to be tight, there's going to be cards. I think this is the complete opposite.
It
Like,
unravels.
yeah, it's going to be a routine win for Arsenal, I think. But as you mentioned in the last market, United is disastrous at the moment. Sluggish, coming up against a fast pace, like banging form team. You've got Saka running at the likes of Evans and Casemiro. Like they're going to be causing all sorts of problem, and you can just see lazy tackles. Just the only way United can do anything here, I think, is just to smash Arsenal. And and I mean that physically.
Yes.
So bookings galore, I think.
Yeah, I kind of agree. I didn't find this as easy.
It's not.
The thing that really swayed it for me is the fact that it's kind of forgotten because, you know, their stars are quite far apart right now. But like these are two teams that do not like each other. Like there's still a rivalry between the two of them, and I think it's a funny one for United because, you know, which devil do they prefer? Like the two teams who could win the league this season are Arsenal and City, and I think undoubtedly they prefer that probably Arsenal won it, even though then, you know, they have the fact they can lord over Arsenal, that they can neither have won the league for so long, disappears. So yeah, I mean, as I say, there's no love lost between them. United's disciplinary record isn't great. They're short in terms of players as well, although, you know, Bruno being out maybe doesn't help bookings because he's someone who both gets fouled and does quite a lot of kicking himself when he's in the mood. But yeah, with Tierney kind of in some form for giving cards, I feel like 5 isn't too much to ask.
It's that line, isn't it?
If it was 52, I'd probably go lower.
No, that's true. I think that line is just tempting enough. Can I see there being 0, 1 or 2 cards in this? No, I think there's going to be a minimum of like 3. So therefore, I think there's a chance of it, as I say, unravelling and being lots more. And I can't remember. I haven't got it written down, but I think United still picked up 3 or 4 yellow cards against Palace on Monday night, and obviously were thumped in that one from the get-go. Really, so yeah, I don't think this is one where Game State would write off cards happening.
Yeah, indeed. Right, final market we're looking at in this week's show. Aston Villa versus Liverpool. Villa will be fresh, or maybe not that fresh, off their European exploits in a game tonight at Olympiacos. Total goal minutes here. And I've got to be a bit careful here because I mocked the traders here last week and then they really got over us on these Liverpool goals. 199.5 is the midpoint here with Sporting Index. So you need 200 goal minutes or more if you're going higher, or 199 or less. Let's see if you guys do that whole differential thing again here. Higher or lower, 3, 2, 1.
No, not this time.
Oh my goodness.
Got to.
I've got my limits.
Got to
do it. I've got to find these opportunities to get one. Although, as you said last time, it doesn't count if I don't win the market.
Yeah.
The fact that we're different. But I think I'm all right here.
Okay.
Yeah. I think Villa are going to be super tired from their trip to Greece.
They look quite tired anyway.
They do look very tired. And I think Liverpool, like, they're not really fighting for anything, are they? But with Klopp's departure on the horizon, they're not going to want to go down the way that things have currently been going down. I think they'll look to record like a win against a very good Premier League side here. Plus, Liverpool are scoring the most goals of any team in the league in the second half. So, I mean, I guess that sort of explains why it's on the higher side. 65% of their goals come in the second half. And guess which team concedes the most goals? Highest percentage of their goals conceded in the second half?
Aston Villa.
Well done, George.
Yes.
Oh, how you got that?
Correct. But also Liverpool have been conceding loads recently. Conceded, 2 goals in their last 3 matches. So they're looking a bit shaky at the back. I don't know. I always think it's going to be goals. So there's no point in me saying I think there's going to be goals here because that's just part of the course, isn't it?
Right, there we have it. Plenty of goals according to Dan. Jack, why is he wrong?
I've kind of used some of your evidence against you, really, to be honest. I feel, it's a monstrously high line. And I actually put at the top bit, are you looking for like just the highest lines now so you can just prove your love for goals? I mean, we're going to go higher than 200. I think Villa are running on fumes, and I think we saw that against Brighton last week. Well, I thought they'd go and beat Brighton, and they mustered 2 shots, and that would concern me. They also could possibly be qualified for the Champions League before kickoff here, which would obviously change the whole landscape. And I've got that trip to Greece, which I think all those factors would point towards a potentially sluggish performance in Villa, where Liverpool can go and win this, and there isn't going to be that end-to-end feel about it and that massive high-scoring game. I think Liverpool can win and possibly keep Villa at arm's length here. So that's the reason I've gone lower, because the line is massively high. Just to keep, again, the same numbers that we crunched earlier. Villa at home this season, average of 210 minutes. The median is 207. They've gone higher in 10 of 18. Liverpool, actually, surprisingly, possibly for many, it's lower than that. Average is 179. Their median is 189. So they are still high, but on side. And
it's a lovely pronouncement of median. Really nice.
Yeah.
Yeah. Bring a bit of culture to the table.
Well, yeah,
about time.
there's a bar that's been set, and I've got to try and get up to it. And they've only gone higher in 7 of their 18 away games. So I just think that the nature, most of Villa's main goal minutes and frantic, super high-scoring games were at the start of the season, and I think we're just getting to that point now where they're crawling over the line.
Yeah, I'm with you. I also just think this could be a game where Liverpool could be ahead and then it kind of fizzles out into nothing. There's not really much on the line for either team, with Villa's top 4 place basically being secured. I don't know, and yes, they're tired. Does tiredness always lead to more goals at the back end of games? Like, I don't really know. Like, I can definitely see why there would be goals. There were loads of goals in Liverpool's last game against Spurs, but none of them came after like the 70-something minute. So yeah, if I was going to say I thought goal minutes would make up 200 or more, I'd have to have a very good reason to do so, and I don't see the reason for that, so I'm going lower. There you have it for this week's show. Hopefully you've enjoyed and can take something out of our thoughts ahead of the weekend's football. Enjoy it. Make sure you sign up if you haven't already got an account with SpreadX or Sporting Index. You can find a new customer offer in the link below. T's and C's do apply. And remember that losses can exceed your initial deposit. Check out oddschecker for your fixed odds betting needs, and WhoScored will have all the stats to inform your betting, including pesky Paul Tierney's cards records recently. But thank you very much to Dan. Thank you very much to Jack.
Thank you.
Best of luck to your Yellows.
Thank you very much.
We'll be back again next week to talk through the League One playoff final and the League Two playoff final.
I'm sure we will.
They're both going to be on the running order.
Yep.
Thank you very much. And have a great weekend, and please do ensure that you're gambling responsibly.